Good afternoon. We are four students studying international relations, and right now we are doing a project in geography about the United States. Therefore, we think that it would be quite interesting to hear the opinion of an American person about some very controversial topics right now. First of all, could you tell us where you are from exactly?
I'll be happy to try and help. I was born in Hollywood, in California, America, in 1966, when California was very different to how it is now.
You are probably aware of the fact that there have been many debates about this topic, so we'd like to know, what is your position about the easy access to arms there is in the United States nowadays?
The subject of guns in the United States is a very controversial one. Obviously, the right for individuals to have arms is a constitutional one, going back a long way and part of everyday American life. And for that to be taken away is seen as a restriction on freedom, which to a large section of the American population is unacceptable. The downside of ready access to arms is obviously a very significant level of gun crime, very high level of murders by weapons, much higher than other countries which don't have such relaxed controls over arms. So my own position is that it should be curtailed. There should be greater restrictions on the availability of guns, basically to create a safer society in America. The difficulty is overturning what's seen as an entrenched position where there are many, many guns in circulation, and a situation that the American population has got used to over a great period of time. So it is not going to be an easy matter to settle. But the more you see mass shootings and the crime statistics are so worrying, we can only hope that the position does change and that there are greater controls on gun availability to the population in the future.
Yes, that's very interesting. The second question is, do you think the international border separating Mexico and the United States, extending from the Pacific Ocean to the west and Gulf of Mexico to the east, is necessary?
Well, there are really two issues about the border between Mexico and the United States. The one is the traditional argument about whether it's necessary to have any form of border between the two countries. And then the other issue is the more recent topical one, being Donald Trump's insistence that there ought to be a wall built between the two countries. In relation to the idea about a border between the two countries, I think it is necessary to separate them, in particular to protect the United States economic interests and to have some form of control on immigration, because they're very distinct economies, and it's important for the United States to protect their position and to be able to regulate immigration from Mexico. There are moves afoot to improve trading relations between the two, which will enhance Mexico's position, but I still think it's necessary to have immigration controls and therefore a border. The second issue about whether it's a good idea to build a wall between the United States and Mexico is something that I find it very difficult to agree with, because very simply I see it as a massive waste of resources when America has a very limited public health system and many other elements on which expenditure could be very beneficial. So to waste billions of dollars on the erection of a wall, I just can't agree with that.
Yes, I can see your position. In addition, what do you think about the way in which President Donald Trump is managing United States international relations?
Yes, the question of Donald Trump's handling of international relations is an interesting one. Essentially, I think he is a source of embarrassment for the country, as he's regarded as a kind of buffoon and not a serious figure internationally. And I think this was exemplified in the recent General Assembly of the United Nations, where it was clear that he's not taken seriously by other world leaders or representatives of the country. The publicised meeting with Putin and discussion about interference in the US election, also where he had to backtrack afterwards, was extremely embarrassing. And similarly, the spat over North Korea and the Twitter goading and so on is really not statesmanlike, and again just shows a person who's lacking in gravitas and the experience and conduct necessary to perform that kind of role. So I think possibly it's not too damaging, to the extent that he is such an embarrassment to the country, and this is so obvious internationally that it'll be seen as a kind of hiatus in American politics or the American representation overseas, pending the election of a new president who is serious and does have the experience and gravitas properly to represent America and America's interests internationally.
Last but not least, what is your opinion about the so-called American dream in terms of films, how easy it is to get a job there? Are these things really true?
The American dream, I think, is an anachronism. I think it's over. 20, 30 years ago, the idea that all Americans had equal rights or opportunities to achieve the highest aspirations in material terms, and the glamour of Hollywood and so on. I think things have moved on. You've now got a situation where there's huge inequality of wealth, where 1% of the country owns 50% of the nation's wealth, leaving a huge majority in population terms not very well off at all, and a struggling middle class with no public health service, often finding it difficult to keep up with medical bills and so on, and to carry on with the normal middle class way of life as would be viewed in many other countries. There's racial inequality, very clearly statistically proven, and nepotism as well. I mean, you only have to look at Trump's administration with his children and children-in-law given jobs in the administration where they don't necessarily have the experience they should for those public functions. So for the average person, it's actually very challenging, I think, to achieve great wealth and success in the United States of America now.
Thank you very much for your time. This has been very useful.